This is AndyTube. In this video I'm going to show you how to change the motor belt on a Singer Model 513. These instructions would cover a lot of Singer models that have an internal NK or N8 motor with a belt that goes up to the hand wheel. In the Singer service guide, it says you're supposed to go through a small access port down here under the machine with your screwdriver to loosen the adjustment that'll give you some slack on the motor and allow you to take it off. But that's never worked very well for me, so I'm going to show you how I do it. The first thing that we need to do is remove some of the pieces here so we'll be able to pull the hand wheel off. You can't really change the belt properly without taking the hand wheel off. So there's a little screw here on the stop motion knob, and you either need to loosen it or remove it. I like to remove it because I usually lose it if I leave it in the wheel, and I just put it in a little magnetic plate here to hold it. Then I'll hold the hand wheel steady and just keep turning the stop motion knob to my left, which unscrews it, and I'll take off the knob and the washer, the stop motion washer, and now I can see that the hand wheel is loose, but I don't have enough slack in the belt to get it all the way off of the horizontal arm shaft. So to do that, that's where I said they show instructions to come down here and go in and loosen the nut. But I really have never been able to see it very good down in here. By the way, to access this area, there's usually an end plate or motor plate with two screws. You just take the screws out and you pull the plate off. So let me get this set up here and I'll show you how I approach this. Okay? This is how I like to set up to adjust the motor belt or remove it. There's usually an oil pan or drip pan in this area, and on these models it's usually held by a thumb screw onto a thumb nut that's held onto a screw right there. You just take that off and remove the whole plate. I've also unplugged power from the machine, because I will be maybe touching the motor and in the wiring area and don't want to get shocked. See if I can get in here a little bit. On this model, there's a steel bracket right here that's screwed to the machine with two heavy screws. And that bracket is used to hold two plastic washer type of things that go on either side of the motor bracket. From the motor is attached to a bracket, and the bottom of the bracket comes down here, and one large screw goes through the two washers on either side of the motor bracket, and they screw into the motor, I don't know what this bracket's called, it screws into this bracket, motor mount holding bracket. Okay, that sounds good. So anyway, the access for this is, see if you can see my screwdriver coming through down there. Yeah, I think you can see that. Right? Whoops. This is the one you're supposed to go into. It's just to the right side of the plug area. But this is why I turn the machine on its back, so that I can see what I'm doing down here. And there's one large screw in there, so I'm going to loosen it a little bit. If you loosen it too much, the screw will pop out and you'll have to spend a couple of minutes putting all this assembly back together. And there's no reason to take it out for this adjustment. The front washer, or the first washer right here, this white nylon, is an elongated washer, and that's how you put tension on or release tension off of the motor belt. So I just go in there and push the elongated end up towards the motor, like that. So it's elongated and it's sitting in there like that, and I'm pushing it up towards the motor so the short end is in the bracket, and that creates a little bit of slack in the belt. And that's also how you would adjust tension on the belt, by moving that bracket one way or the other to make the elongated end rub on the bracket and pull the belt tighter, or like I did, push that washer up so it twists up towards the motor. And that releases a little slack on the belt. I'm going to stand the motor back upright, or the machine, sorry, I'll stand the machine back up here. And let's back out some here. So now you can see I got way too much slack on the belt to run it, but I can actually slip the belt off of the pulley, just like that, and I can pull the hand wheel off, and it comes off just like that. So there's my hand wheel, and here's my belt. There's the motor pulley, and by loosening that washer I was talking about, you can see that there's a little bit of up and down give to the motor, and it is actually just enough to give you slack to get the belt off. Let me get in a good position here and I'll show you how to reassemble it. Okay, I tried to get this a little closer to give you a better shot, but this is how I put the new belt, put it back on and reassemble. This new belt, by the way, I picked this up, I think, from Central Michigan Sewing, and they have an eBay store too. It's made by Mitsubishi, and it's the proper length for this machine, and quite a few others. But I was interested about this belt because it's got it's kind of like two pieces made together, and the inside of this belt, maybe you can see, it's like kind of a copper color, and it's a thin layer, but when I look at it real close, it looks like it's some kind of woven material instead of just like a reinforced belt. I looked at it with a magnifying glass, and it just looks, it's very, very thin layer, but I'm assuming that they've done that to, it gets a better grip maybe, and it lasts longer. But I tried it out and it sure works great. I'd never seen that before. So anyway, when I go to put this back together, I take the, if I'm out all the way, I take my hand belt, or the hand wheel, and just lay the belt over it and get it in the cogs. Then I'm going to take the bottom of it here and slip it from the bottom onto the pulley. Just hold it there with my finger and stretch the belt up and slide the hand wheel back on, if I can do it from this angle. There we go. And you want to be sure that the cogs get properly in that hand wheel. There we go. And that the belt gets under that pulley and in the cogs, and then you can push the hand wheel back. Now, after I clean this and stuff, I put oil on that bushing that the hand wheel slides onto. Don't use grease on anything back here, so that'll just make it sticky. And when you go to release the stop motion and just wind a bobbin, you'll get needle bar creep. So just use oil, and you can put a little oil on the stop motion screw when you go to put it back on. You know, if you watched any of my restoration videos, you know I coat everything with oil after I clean it. But anyway, so I've got the belt onto the pulley and around the hand wheel, and the hand wheel back on. So I'm going to put my little clamp washer back on there. I got a 50-50 chance that that's the right position for it. And then I'm going to try not to knock that off while I put my stop motion screw, thread it back on there. So how about those Astros, huh? Sorry. Come on, you just go back on there, will you? So of course, once I stopped filming, I got this stop motion screw on there right away. I put it in the little stop screw in there, and I got lucky and I got the washer on the correct way, because I can turn it to the right and it tightens very secure. And if I turn it to the left to release the stop motion clamp, it goes a little bit of a turn and stops. So I'm good. If it won't clamp properly for you, you have to take this screw off and turn that washer 180 degrees and put it back on. Okay, so I've got my hand wheel back on properly and the stop motion screw. My belt is around the cogs of the hand wheel, and it's around the cogs of the pulley on the motor. So I'm going to turn this back over and show you how to adjust it from the bottom. Alright. So you remember the two washers here that sandwich the bracket that's attached to the motor, that black bracket that's in between the washers. And the access is over here next to the plug, where you can get a screwdriver in there to tighten and loosen the screw that holds everything to the motor bracket, holding bracket. So I'm going to start turning that elongated washer that's on the right side back towards me, and it's going to start moving the motor towards the bottom of the machine, which is going to put tension on the belt. And what I'm looking for is about a 1/2 inch of give on the belt. If you have not enough, the belt can slip. If you have too much, it will bind or bog down the motor. It'll be too stressful, and your machine won't operate right. So I want about a 1/2 inch, and I'll show it to you after I adjust it. Once I get the belt where I want it, I hold that washer securely in the place I want it, and then I'll turn that silver screw in the middle and tighten it up firmly. Then I'm going to go back and I'm going to check the tension on my belt to make sure that it didn't move and change on me. And this looks good. So let me stand it back up here, and I'll put the power on it, and I'll show you the amount of slack that I used, and we'll give it a test. Okay, so maybe I should zoom in a little to show you this slack here. You see this slack? And I bring the belt about a ½ inch or so. The nice thing with the cog belt is you can be a little loose and you're still good. So better on a cog belt, better to be a tiny bit loose than a tiny bit tight, because if you're tight it just binds everything and makes the motor strain and when you're sewing, and it's not good. But that looks pretty good. Now if I needed to adjust it, I just flip it on its back and go down and loosen that big silver screw and move that white washer back and forth a little bit, hold it in place and tighten it back up. What I found on most of these is that when you tighten the screw, even if you're holding the washer, it just makes the belt a little bit tighter. So when you get the belt to the amount of slack you like when you're working down there, just have it a teensy bit too loose, because when you tighten that screw it'll tighten it back up a teensy bit. Let's give this a whirl here and see how it sounds. Oh, I guess I better plug my cord back in, huh? See how safe I was? Okay, I'll turn it on with this rocker switch. Light comes on. Yippee! Looks good. It even smells like a brand new belt. Okay. Then of course you would put your motor cover plate or end plate back on with the 2 screws and close everything back up. So it's very easy. If you find the belt after a while of sewing on a new belt, that I don't know about this with this new fiber liner, but the V-belts and the old cog belts tended to stretch just a little bit after they'd been broken in. So now you know how easy it is to go down here on that adjustment knob and just where the 2 washers are, enter your, let me unplug it, enter through the frame to the right of the plug to get your screwdriver in there. Get on that silver screw and loosen it about a turn and move that elongated white adjustment washer to or from you to tighten that belt up a little bit. Hold it in place while you tighten the screw. And if you find the belt's too tight, you think it's good, but you start sewing on it, and then you say, well, I don't know, it sounds like it's straining. Come back in and loosen it and adjust that adjustment washer and make the belt just a little bit looser. Very easy. Very easy to change your own belt. Don't pay somebody $50 or $60 or more to do that. You can order that belt online for your specific make and model. I think this belt was, I don't remember, $10 or something, and free shipping. Got here like 3 days after I ordered it, and you can change the belt in about 15 minutes. So you can do it. I know you can. I hope that was interesting to you, and I hope that you'll come back in the future and check out some of my other videos. Feel free to comment or question, and subscribe if you like. That's up to you. Take care.